everybody, and welcome to another edition of Body Electrician Live. And this is, of course, a sister site to Body Electrician Community Kitchen, which Cheryl came up with that fun name. Cheryl, say hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
We have Cheryl's out in San Diego. We got Bob. Say hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Bob's coming from Texas. And we have, of course, Dr. Wil Spencer. Say hi, Will.
Hi, Will.
How are you? All right, so this is a little bit of a different topic tonight. We're going to tread lightly on it, though. We won't try to go too crazy. Although I had a few comments from Facebook to just go wild, but we'll keep it calm. So
maybe
we'll see where it goes, right? Anyway, the topic tonight was 50 Shades of Grey, which of course will lead us into all kinds of other topics. So it's just a starting point. But I found it really interesting, the phenomenon that has gone on about that book, the movie. In fact, it was on the news just the other day that they're filming the second movie. And huge moneymaker. I think it was, they made almost $600 million on that one movie. And that's pretty huge. It's going to be one of the top movies in 2015. So that being said, it really led me to question what's going on. It's a phenomenon. It's gone viral in my own family, as far as I had family members telling me, you got to read this book, and every age group. And I actually read a little bit of it and stopped because it didn't seem to catch me at the time. But just recently I became a little bit more interested in what was going on there. So started to question things, and it led me to this. So it's an interesting topic. It's one of my first comments was, but why? Why are so many women attracted to this? What's going on there? And Bob, you had some really interesting comments about that before. Care to take a stab at that again?
No.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
What do you want to know? Is there a question in there?
Yeah, the question is, what's going on? I guess it's a worldwide phenomenon, but why are so many women attracted to this? I mean, you would think today women aren't we supposed to be, living for our independence and we're so strong now. You know what a woman president is being lined up for us and everything. So, and yet here millions of women attracted to someone else taking control. So I found it interesting. I thought you might have an opinion on that.
I do have an opinion on it. So for everybody that's about to get their tits twisted, untwist them. For everybody that's about to get their panties in a bunch, and for everybody that's about to get, their dick in a knot, get over it or go away. Okay.
Well, I did say this was an adult conversation, Will. I did say it.
Well, me and Will have been doing this for a long time. He knows me. Okay, so we'll start with the disqualifiers. So the disqualifiers are we're looking at a cross section of people here age-wise that have very, very different values. I mean, I'm 50. Obviously, I was raised Italian in the Bronx. I have a certain set of values. Okay, I'm not going to argue right or wrong here because right or wrong doesn't come into play. Okay. The second thing is, yes, we're going to be speaking in generalizations. So if something I say you don't believe applies to you, it doesn't apply to you. Let it go. Okay. The third thing is, I don't care. Okay. I don't care whether you believe me. I don't care what you like, what I have to say. I ain't selling books. I ain't selling mystery potions. I don't have a TV show. My livelihood does not depend on this, so take it as you will.
That's it.
If you look nowadays at the younger generations, okay, what do you see? You see a neutering or a blending of the sexes on just about every level that there is, and that's actually what sort of keyed this. The topic of this chat went from where we started it to 50 Shades of Grey, and that's the reason why I hate the goddamn book. Okay? Because the situation, quite simply, is this: we've got generations of chemically altered, electronically altered, medically altered people. Okay, boys are becoming effeminate. Okay, and girls are they're not biologically becoming masculinized like boys are biologically being feminized. However, the attitude is being put there. So quite simply, what you have is this. You have a bunch of people that through the last, we'll go 50 years just to use round numbers. We got a bunch of people for the last 50 years that were thought to believe there's something called gender equality. We are not equal, get over it. Okay, men and women are not equal. Okay, it's not real. Okay, you've been programmed to believe this. Okay, no matter how many Lamaze classes I take, I cannot give birth. We are not equal. Okay, that does not mean that one is less than the other. Okay, and this is where people blow it. It's not that one of us is more important than the other. It's not that one of us is better than the other, but we are not the same. Okay, we do not have the same physical beings. We do not have the same mental and emotional makeups and capabilities. Okay, so you look at the battle of, we'll take them since we're talking about sex, the battle of the sexes. The battle of the sexes is such that women feminists, okay, were led to believe that equality is going to come from them being men, for lack of a better expression, or being as close to men as possible. You know, they use the discrimination thing. If a woman's doing the same job as a man, is she entitled to equal pay? Absolutely. Okay, I have no issue with that. Absolutely. Okay. However, if the qualifications for a job are diminished so that a woman can have the job, how does that promote equality? How does that promote feminism? How does that promote anything when you're saying lower the bar so I can play? Okay, so the entire foundation of it is subverted to begin with. Okay, all of these things, and the reason why I'm doing this and talking this way is something real simple. Okay, because most of you right now are going, oh my God, he's rattling on, he's all over the map. There's your cognitive dissonance right there. You can't figure out heads from tails, even though everything I said is pretty much cut and dry and clear. Okay, you have so much cognitive dissonance and programming in you over this that you can't even separate those facts out. So when we start separating the facts out, look at what we have going on here. A traditional society of 50 years ago, where the woman stayed home, was maternal, had kids, took care of the household. Okay, the man went out and did his thing and did his work and blah, 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 blah. Now it's decayed into, for lack of a better expression, everybody for themselves, you know, survival of the fittest, whatever. This is not a natural condition. This is not a natural state of being, and it is not a natural manifestation of the co-joining of male-female energies. Then we have the whole Caitlyn Jenner thing, which is that in order to reconcile male and female energies, we're all supposed to be transgender. No, David Bowie was not a prophet. Okay, doesn't work that way. Okay? If you can't have an interpersonal relationship with the opposite sex, do you think you're going to be able to have a healthy interpersonal relationship with yourself? Okay, and vice versa. Okay, so basically what this all boils down to is a complete and total separation in the modern day between what constitutes the male energy, what constitutes the female energy, and what constitutes their interaction. That is completely and totally been turned upside down. And this whole 50 Shades of Grey thing is merely a splinter, one little narrow focus window, but because it's about sex, it's the moneymaker, is just one little tiny indication of the fact that people subconsciously, whether they realize it or not, are aware of this or uncomfortable with it or realize it's not natural. And this is an extreme, superficial reaction to that. So you said I had a famous quote. Now would probably be the time for you to repeat it, because I don't remember it.
Yeah, because you said to me, women have lost their sexuality to sexploitation and their femininity to feminism. And I thought, wow. In fact, it was so cool I thought I'd write it down. So there you go. So I'd love you to speak on that.
I just did.
Yeah, you did.
That's the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So again, you know, it's the whole 50 Shades thing is just the popularized, commercialized, digitized, matrixized anesthesia for the fact that we have been forced, or not forced, but, well, yeah, forced, whatever. We have been programmed to live in a world that is so unnatural to the human condition that this is where we end up.
Right. So you're saying you think it's more of a distorted wanting of this that women are feeling. They don't, maybe they don't even know what they're attracted to in this.
Well, I don't know. That's sort of a personal thing. I mean, everybody's got their own attraction to it, but we were talking pre-show about the battered wife syndrome.
Right. Right.
It's really no different than that. It's the fact that the subconscious personality has been programmed through real physical experiences, which is the only way you can program your subconscious, through your five senses. Your subconscious has been programmed in a way that's contradictory to your consciousness. Okay? That creates cognitive dissonance. That's why the battered spouse actually believes that she deserves it and that she's only being beat because she's loved. Okay, so now if you throw a sexual component in there, all of a sudden, like I said, the topic becomes a moneymaker. It becomes this. It becomes weekend warrior clubs, the sex clubs, and things like that, where people are looking for this role reversal thing. Like so many CEOs and power players that are men of modern companies, that they go see dominatrixes on the weekend. And that's got little to nothing to do with sex. It's got to do with the control. These guys are under tremendous pressure and control 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is an extreme way for them to release the control, for them to be completely and totally physically dominated by somebody else, usually a member of the opposite sex. That there's little to no sexual contact in most of that industry. And it's a huge, huge, huge money industry because there's huge, huge, huge money players in it. Okay, so again, permeating that through the marketplace, if you will, you know, it makes money.
Yeah.
And again, people don't realize that when you isolate something like that, it can be potentially harmful.
Good point.
Emotionally harmful as well as physically harmful.
Yes. Interesting. Now,
So,
Will, I know that you have had some interesting experiences. I'm not sure if I should mention the group that has had some, you know, very, unique sexual issues within their community. And again, I'm not sure you want me to mention the exact group that that's coming from. That'll be up to you, but I believe Delanne was talking to me about it a bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not off the top of my head right now, no.
The group that you go to visit and you help them, they're kind of out of
Oh,
green. Yeah.
you're talking about the Amish?
Yes. Okay. So I didn't want to say it because I didn't know if that was okay to kind of.
I'm pretty sure they're not listening right now.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Pretty sure.
So now there's.
And we're talking about a group of society that's fairly isolated from this kind of technology, and yet they're some of the most traumatized in this. We're talking more in the sexuality realm, and suppressed and twisted that I've ever seen.
Yeah. So there's issues there, and do those kind of things actually come up on the scans? Do you actually see something that represents that, or they just tell you the stories? Like how are you getting that? How are you gathering that?
Way before we were ever scanning, I was called upon for a couple of years in 3 different Amish and Mennonite sects or groups, and because I made house calls.
Right.
Mostly, it was young girls having menstrual problems, older ladies having seizures to all different degrees, grand mal seizures down to petites, epileptic fits. But really what started it for me was there was a 65-year-old lady who had just lost her husband a few years prior, and she had moved from a different state into the area and was living in a trailer house in the backyard of this family. And she was having 10 to 12 grand mal seizures every day, to the extent she was busting her feet from slapping them on the floor so hard. She broke one of her ankles from smashing it on the floor, during having one of these grand mal seizures. So that the lady's brother, who owned the farm, who I was called on several times because of their girls having menstrual problems and several other problems in the family, asked me if I would take a look at this lady, so I did. And anyhow, we got the this is just before we didn't even get into anything about what was going on, other than the same old dietary stuff, infections, just the typical easy stuff, and there was really not much going on there. And so after about 6 months of this, I would come, we would talk, I would do some body work to get the central nervous system calmed down. The grand mals would pretty much go away until about 2-3 weeks later. Then they'd come back again, and this was like a repeat several times. And then I started asking questions, and she felt comfortable with telling me, and to come to find out that, and this is fairly across the board in the Amish community, not quite so much in the Mennonite, but Amish for sure, that most all the girls that I've ever dealt with, and this lady pretty much confirmed this, that they were all sexually abused by the time they were 14 of some way, usually forced rape, sex, whatever you want to call it, before they were 14, and then it just continued on. And they were used more like, I call it brute mares. If you know agriculture, these are just animals that are just bred to produce offspring.
Wow.
They're not respected as who they are, what they are for their job. They just don't have that in their community at all. It is kind of surprising looking at the Amish stigma from the outside that this would even be going on, because they don't really show this. They show all smiley, and when you go to their farms to pick up your produce, or at their sawmill, or do commerce with them, they all pretty much have that smiley plastic face.
Right.
But when you like, I was communicating with them fairly intimately, because I'm asking these questions like, okay, so it's not a dietary thing why you're having grand mal seizures. It's not a chemical thing like a pesticide or some other chemical endocrine system disruptor. It's not, infection. So then I start asking questions, okay, so what's been going on, You're a widower, where's your husband? What happened? What did he do? So I just start asking questions, and just in conversation, you get all these answers. And the depravity, the depth of depravity in that society is so epidemic that I don't have words really that could give it any close to justice of the depravity that these women and girls endure daily. And this is pretty much across the board.
It's funny, that's not the image that I think they put out. That's not what the typical American thinks of when they look at them. You would never guess that. I never thought of that.
Well, that's part of the fraud in all the constructed, organized religions.
Right.
Because it is a religion.
And
Yeah.
he just hit my nail on the head. Let me put it that way. Because Wu knows very well my experience here in this land, and this is where I get to redeem myself for being the callous, insensitive, male chauvinist pig that I was in the opening segment. We live under what's referred to collectively as the external patriarchal savior myths. We have a God. And when I say God, I just don't mean Jehovah or Yahweh. I don't mean a Muslim God, a Chinese God, a Christian God. I mean an acquiescence to a higher authority who we are told we are separate from. We are told he is a man. We are told he is off planet. And we are told that we need intermediaries like priests and churches to be able to communicate with him. We are told that we are born into some sort of damaged state. Okay? This just doesn't apply to religion. This applies to the UFO tards, the Nibiru tards, the Zecharia Sitchin followers that, we were genetically engineered to be a slave race. This myth, okay, it's in the Mennonites, it's in the Amish, and it all boils down to one thing. Let's go back to the fact that I am pagan Gnostic. Nobody's going to know what that means, really. But we're talking about the indigenous populations, indigenous tribes, the nature people, people that worship the earth. Culturally speaking, we're talking about a group of people that didn't believe. They don't believe. Gnostics have no beliefs. We know or we do not. Okay? We do not have belief systems because the word belief literally translated means I wish. Okay, belief means I wish. Okay, and if you look at the spelling of the word, it's belie.
Ooh, good one.
Okay, so amongst cultures who were of the knowing that our planet is a live, sentient being, women were in charge. Okay, Up until the first dynasty of Egypt, even, pharaohs were women. The man who got on the stage was literally an actor, a puppet. Okay? A man, a
Today.
man lacking the ability to give birth also lacks the ability to have the same emotional sensitivities as a woman. He cannot be as compassionate as a woman. He cannot be as self-sacrificing as a woman. These are genetic and biological conditions, okay, based on our physical differences. Because of that, the woman made the decisions on behalf of the family. The man went and made them be so, because that is where our forte is, the actual manipulation of the physical world into her desire.
Ooh.
However it happened that society became patriarchal, the first thing that needed to happen was women needed to be subjugated because they did have all the power. Okay? And this is just a tiny little sidebar. This is the thing about the 50 Shades of Grey thing. People don't realize that in the Dom-sub relationship, the sub is the person with the power. Anybody that does not understand that the submissive is the person in control and with the power is perverting something and is going to cause harm. So if you immediately believe that the Dom is the one in control, you're fucked. Okay? So through the course now of evolution, the male has had to constantly prop himself up into this unnatural position. Okay? It is unnatural for us, just as it is unnatural for you to try to go out and materially change your world in a lot of instances. So what do? You, as a woman, materially change yourself to fit in a male world because you've been led to believe that that's what you're trying to be equal to. So you're trying to become equal in a world that is flawed to begin with. Okay? And that's not equality. Okay? And the other thing too is you want men to do it for you. Okay? Which is, once again, it's that jumbo shrimp oxymoron. Okay, it's the man's supposed to lower the standard. The man's supposed to do affirmative action hiring. The man's supposed to do this. The man's supposed to do that. We went through that whole Annie Hall period and the Alan Alda sensitive man period. Okay, and now we're back in this period where everybody's a psycho, you know, as far as extremes go. The latest cultural thing is what's called the gun culture, whereby soldiers are put on this pedestal to the point where the virtual the virtual reality generations, the internet generations, are all running around playing in the gun world as if they were soldiers and operators. It's like Call of Duty becomes real life. Okay, and there is a huge, absolutely huge female participation in this. Okay, it is enormous. Girls with full sleeve tattoos, carrying guns, knives, acting like little Billy badasses. Okay, because these are the things that are being promoted on the internet. This whole thing, like I said, it's the gun culture. Okay, the motorcycle culture. Okay, I grew up with motorcycles. It was a family thing. My mom raced. They were in my life. It was no big deal. I love motorcycles. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. Okay, but there is this new thing. Okay, where the object is worshipped. You know, it's like I am a worshiper of the gun. I am a worshiper of the motorcycle. I am a worship. Pick the topic. Okay, but any place left that there is a firm masculine presence, women are participating in that. They're masculizing themselves, and men are becoming more and more effeminate. Okay, we have the BHP thing, we have the religion thing, we have the cultural thing, and it's all based upon this one huge imbalance. Okay, and all of this craziness is because people are sensitive to it and they're affected by it, but they really don't understand it, so they go for the superficial band-aid cures for it.
Right. As in, are you connecting this back to the 50 Shades where women are reaching out for that, but maybe they have no idea why that's attracting them?
Correct.
And yeah.
Okay, and suppose, look at it this way. Suppose you have a particular person, male or woman, it doesn't matter, because we're talking about energies here. You know, it's manifest in our gender. But suppose you have a particular woman who, for some reason, she doesn't feel she's attractive. She doesn't feel, she thinks she's fat. She's been programmed to the ideals of society unjustly. She's got low self-esteem. She's got low pride. Okay? This may be such an emotional condition to her that she enjoys this simply because she feels she deserves it, and she feels it reinforces her low self-esteem and low self-worth.
Mm.
For a man to participate in that sort of activity is a heinous crime against another person. Okay? If, however, that same person is aware of these things and knows they're programmed and is absolutely terrified, the comfort of a Dom is that they create an environment of complete and total physical and emotional safety. He does not judge because she is in control, and he, being an actual male, provides for her physical safety, whether that be physical in the presence of danger, physical as far as providing a lifestyle for her, a home, safety for her needs. Okay? Now, once that's established, the only thing stopping her is her own fear. Okay? Once the Dom removes the external reasons for fear, then he can push her past her internal reasons for fear and let her understand that you can have this physical experience as a positive experience, not as a negative experience. Okay? The other thing with Gnostics is we are of the knowing that whenever you are given a binary choice, you are given no choice at all. So the quote is, a Gnostic always seeks the third choice. And the third choice for us, as far as this topic goes, is to get back in the condition of what is more natural. And it's a balance thing, like we talk about balance and everything. It's a balance thing. Woman is supposed to be nurturing, is supposed to be caring, is supposed to have a certain expression of her energies. These are codified in societies around the world tens of thousands of years ago, that this is how it was. Okay? And it is codified in a lot of those too, that the birth of the word civilization stems around however it happened that men took control. And thus we've been brought forward all these years in this imbalance, and we go seeking to fit into an imbalance, making it more imbalanced. And they are pushing us, they being whoever's running the ship, is pushing us, you know, in the other direction, so to speak. And this is the thing that probably most importantly ties into our health here. The emotional conditions are so deep, especially with this particular topic. The emotional conditions are so deep that people don't realize the profound relationships that they have with your physical body. You have two brains in your head. I'm not in your head. You have two brains in your body. You have the one in your head that everybody knows about, but you have another enteric nervous system. That is your subconscious, and that is the lining of the walls of your stomach. Okay, it's around your abdomen. It's in your periodontal cavity. It's why you get gut feelings. See, we know all this stuff. They told us all this stuff. We have all the knowledge. We get gut feelings. When we walk down the street, past an alley, the hairs stand up on our body. We get a feeling in the pit of our stomach. When somebody captivates us, we actually can physically feel it in our hearts. You know, I'm heartbroken. Okay, your heart is actually the biggest electrical generator in your body, far exceeds your brain. Your heart generates way more consciousness than your brain does, orders of magnitude more. People don't realize that either. So we're sitting in this hugely imbalanced world, and we're digitized now. It used to be, yeah, like I know you're into music and recording, so you know the difference between analog and digital.
Yeah.
Okay, a digital sampling, a computer sampling, is only a bit. It's a particular point in time. It's a snapshot. Then there's emptiness, then there's another snapshot, then there's emptiness, then there's another snapshot. That's how a CD is made. Your brain fills in the blanks, just like your brain fills in the blanks of a movie, because it's only filmed at so many frames per minute, like 40 or whatever it is. Okay? Excuse me. So we're left with the part of us forced to fill in the blanks, so to speak, that contradicts with the sampling that they're taking. So again, they took one component of a relationship between male and female energies, the sexual component of it, and they commercialized it, and they digitized it, and they recreationalized it, and they subject people to it. And shockingly, lo and behold, guess what? It becomes popular, it becomes viral, and it becomes harmful.
Yes. There was another movie that you talked to me about pre-show, which was The Secretary.
Yep.
And I think that's a much better depiction of what you just spoke about. Where
Whoever wrote 50 Shades of Grey knew of that book and that movie. And the movie The Secretary, you're right, is more of a honest, healthy explanation of how that relationship develops. Okay? It's glaringly obvious in even the brief look that I took about Shades of Grey that that person knows about the secretary. And yet they chose to do a portrayal that, in my opinion, perpetuates a disservice to both genders, more so to women, and is potentially harmful.
Right. You know, going back to Bruce Jenner a bit, part of me, when I heard about that, was saying to myself, but what's going on within him that would, you know, bring that into his life? Why would, I guess I don't understand wanting to do something like that. It's hard for me to put myself in that position, but you almost wonder if it's the effects of everything that's happening on this planet, you know, between, although, I mean, he seems physically fine. I mean, he was an athlete. This is, Cheryl, I think you were telling me about, what was her name again? Smallstorm? Sophia Smallstorm?
Smallstorm.
Yeah, she was talking about Bruce Jenner quite a bit, and she had some very interesting opinions about him. Did you want to bring that up a bit?
Yeah, sure.
I watched a little bit of it today. It was really interesting. Do you remember what she said about him being like Superman? And Superman.
Yeah, I remember as a kid him being on the Wheaties box and everything, and yeah, he was just an uber athlete. You know, beyond just you know, maybe feeling uncomfortable being a boy and wanting to be a girl. I mean, there's this whole you know, taking hormones, getting these radical surgeries. I mean, you know, she pointed out that they're very uncomfortable to get, you know, to have breasts implanted, to have things done. I mean, I guess the only real surgery I remember having recently is an episiotomy, right? And that can be really, that can last a while and be quite painful. But having this sort of stuff done, it's just very radical.
Yeah.
It's I'm not sure what to say about that.
I know, even the aspect of having anything taken off of you, I mean, that in itself is so traumatic. I personally would never want to go there. I don't know. But I guess,
It goes deeper than that, though.
well,
It goes way deeper than that, because you're talking about an athlete or an actor or basically an object, a tool that's bought and paid for, and they're being molded and used for a certain purpose, or they lose their stature in what they're in their life. Just like any other actor or any other person in the Hollywood music industry, sports arena, they're being paid a huge amount of money. Basically, they're a high-paid prostitute. They're a high-paid actor. They're a tool to be manipulated at the will of those doing the paying. They're a tool, like a hammer. And so if they need to be augmented, then they're augmented. If they need to be done, you know, if they're, this is all there's no accident that this is all happening.
Mm.
How many actors, actresses over the years have had this kind of thing happen? This is a,
sex. Yeah, I actually, right this second, I can't think of anyone, but there have been, right?
I've been in the presence of many when I lived in California. I used to go to these parties, and these people, they're like blanks. They're living this life that is totally fabricated. They're being paid this amounts of money that are insane, and they have to do what they're told, or they lose all the benefit of their job.
And let's also realize something else too, tying back into the imbalance. let's just say for 2 seconds that there is nothing wrong with Bruce Jenner. Let's just say for 2 seconds that Bruce Jenner was born naturally with a different understanding or a different consciousness of the balance of male-female energies. Okay,
Right.
This has been forever. This is not new. Okay, what is new is the fact that we have become so superficial that we have put the physical component of actual material meat suit gender change
Right.
into this. Okay, whereas in prior societies, okay, there was more of a tolerance for this imbalance. There was a pecking order, absolutely, but you get into the situation where if there was a male born who was exceptionally effeminate or a female who was exceptionally masculine, and that was the natural condition of being that they were born into, they seamlessly fit into their world because there was that balance and there was that tolerance. Okay, nowadays look at what we're saying. On one hand, we're saying, well, we need to reconcile the male-female energies, but then on the other hand, we're saying that there's an arbitrary, inappropriate level of feminineness and an arbitrary level of masculineness that becomes inappropriate. Okay, so we have inhibited again our own ability for spiritual and emotional balance and growth by making a contradictory physical judgment. Okay, so it is only because these surgeries and these procedures are available to us, and the pressures and the programs put into people, that they feel that for me to have a feminine side, and for me to want to express emotion, and for me to want to be nurturing, that I must be placed into a female looking body.
Right. Well, back to you, Cheryl, about Sophia Smallstorm. I know she was connecting all of this to transhumanism as well. She was kind of saying it's one step away from that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and even coming towards a new form of just very ambiguous sexuality, where it would just be seen as very old-fashioned or uncool to even be heterosexual.
Exactly.
And well, she ties it into the decline, what she feels is declining fertility on the planet, estrogen and things in the environment, the women becoming more feminized. And
Yeah, I thought that was a good point she made about that. It seems also some of the people she was talking about, they're really pushing that agenda. I think it was, oh, guys, help me out. What's the name of that futurist guy? The guy that's...
Ray Kurzweil.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah. He and Peter Thiel, all of these guys seem to be involved in putting tons of money into this transhumanist agenda, which I think Will likes to get back to just humanist. He likes that we're human. He's trying to help that, not change us into machines. Am I correct on that, Will?
There is so much trauma and damage to the human over the last 150 years that there's very few people know what being human even is.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of transhumanism, this whole gender thing, the manipulation with surgeries and hormones and all this other stuff, like Bob was saying earlier, this is all a product of people living in a warped, damaged society. And then you have the controllers, whoever they are, on whatever level they are beyond where we are living here on this planet, herding the sheep with things like Bruce Jenner, with transgender, with feminism, with all this stuff. I resonate with Bob because of, in this topic about sexuality, when even that is distorted.
That's right.
Because I learned from old North American Indians about how warped this white man's concepts of nature are. And we have 150 years of science. We have 150 years of medicine. We have 150 plus years of warped society. So you can't. There's like almost no knowing at all. It's all in the world, in the realm of belief, because nobody knows anymore what is real and what is not real. And especially today with the digital reality that most people live in,
Yeah.
it's all manipulated. Everything. I was just talking with Delanne today about this. We were driving down the street, and how, because we had some conversations with some clients that were like very non-acceptant of our views about health. They're following along, they're getting benefit, but they're doing it dragging their feet and stomping and screaming and saying we're crazy. But yet they're the first people to tell you the government's corrupt. The
Right.
military is over there growing, protecting farmers, raising opium and poppies and flying cocaine. But then they don't. Then at the same time, they're standing up for the AMA medical system and all of their fraud, and they're calling us crazy. But yet they're using our services to benefit themselves. Just that alone is insane. On every level of our life and existence, it's being manipulated out in the general mass consciousness. Every level. From the time you're born till the time you die, and this whole idea of waking up is insane all by itself.
Yeah.
So it's like what Bob was saying earlier, though, is they're like the whole Bruce Jenner thing and this transhumanism thing. Okay, none of it's valid. It's like trying to operate inside of an insane asylum and not seeing the insane asylum, calling the insane asylum normal
Right.
and natural. And it's the furthest thing from natural. Our world that we live in on all levels is nothing, not even remotely close to anything that's natural, and that our biology, our meat suit, is not adapted to living this way.
Well, don't you find that most people, too, have lost touch with their bodies in the first place, Will? I mean, isn't that...
No, they haven't lost touch, because you in order to have even the concept of losing touch with something would mean that you have touched it originally.
Yeah, I see.
We're almost, 200 years into a messed up society. At least, I mean, this country, I would say prior to about 1740, possibly, or a little earlier, it wasn't too bad here. That's just my opinion. Okay, much after 1740, 1750, everything pretty much went downhill, in my opinion. So you can't say they've lost touch because they've never had a touch to lose. And that's just my opinion. And people that are talking about natural and about normal and about what works and what doesn't work, until you've gone back in history and looked at how civilization was working and how civilization from this patriarchal, external savior myth society has begun, like Bob was saying earlier, you don't have a clue what we're living in.
Yeah.
I learned some things from some North American Indian elders, that this is verbally passed down generational. This is not anything written. Because most of the North American Indian culture on this planet prior to the 1400s, it was the mothers, a grandmother council run everything.
Oh.
The men, the boys, the males made it happen. But all the decisions, all the choices, everything was done and solidified first by the feminine.
But you can feel like a balance in that. I don't feel like like when you both are talking about that, I don't feel that's on a power struggle level.
It was never, because you got to really get what power is. Power is an egotistical concept in and of itself.
That's exactly right.
I mean, there's a book called Power versus Force by Hawkins, and he explains very well in there the difference. You want to talk about what? It's very simple in our language today. It's all about this egotistical, male-dominated power. It's all about controlling things through power. You talk 1984 or 83, the book published, Biology of Aggression by NATO, lays it all out in that book on how the manipulation of the endocrine system through all the different fashions, all the different venues, and sex being one of them in all its capacities, is manipulated.
Right.
Feminism, manipulation. Male domination, manipulation. All organized religion, manipulation. Education system, manipulation. Pesticides, manipulation. Everything.
And we have the condition nowadays where science has become religion and religion has become science. Okay? The manipulations are so, it's been going on for so long that the manipulations we refer to as new lipstick on, different lipstick on the same pig. Okay? There was a point in time where people lived in a manner that the organized religions were able to perform these manipulations successfully. There was a point in time in history where that was ineffective, so there needed to be the Crusades. There was a point in time where that was ineffective, so we have the entire thing of the development of Rome and Roman culture. Okay, get into the Industrial Revolution, when people moved out of the rural conditions and moved into the cities, into the habitrails. Okay, those people, because of the conditions now that they developed, organized religions like Catholicism and Judaism didn't do the magic anymore. So what did we get? We got Madame Blavatsky and the New Age and the United Nations. Okay, we got the next external patriarchal myth. Then we got the UFO tards. Then we got, you know, and again, it's like people that consider themselves enlightened like to bash upon religion. Okay, whether you consider it to be undue or not is immaterial, because the fact remains is that the same people that crafted those religions for control have also put that control into just about every popular movement or organization that there is. That light and love fluffy bunny crap, no. Okay, it's co-opted, it's perverse, it's unnatural. Okay, as nice as it sounds, okay, it's not natural. But that's their power. Their power has always been to make us think off the bat that there's something wrong with us, and so we need to seek something better. And they always have that answer to what is better. So now it's like, oh, do you feel like a woman inside? Well, for $59.95, we can make you look like a woman outside too. Okay, so again, it's almost a mocking, a form of mockery almost, and yet nobody feels mocked by it. They feel hurt by it. Okay, whereas my reaction to it is, you're making fun of me, I will punch you in the face. Okay, no, but I mean, if you think about this, you want to see somebody cry like a baby? Okay, see me have a problem with a dog. Okay, or see me lose a dog or do a dog rescue or something like that. Okay, I'll openly admit I'll cry like a baby. I cried like a baby at the end of Armageddon, and I don't have a daughter. Okay, I have absolutely no problem expressing any emotion I have, whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. Judge me? Hey, have at it. You can judge me all you want. I really don't care. However, attempt to use that to manipulate me, and I will show you what masculine energy looks like after you wake up, if you wake up. Okay? That is a condition, my personal condition, of this imbalance, because of a lack of an external female presence for the nurturing and for the whatever. We can't give it to ourselves. We can't give it to each other. And no matter how hard, and this is what breaks my heart when I see these younger people, okay, these people that are doing all this fringe stuff, they're our hope, because they're the ones that know something's wrong, but the controllers push them down the wrong path. So instead of finding healing and relief, what they are actually doing is feeding the system that's harming them.
Yes.
So I see them, and I'm like, you got it. You got 95% of it. But it's this last 5% that's harming you. And it's the hardest part for people to see. You know, I love the fact that this makes you uncomfortable. I love the fact that you see this. I love the fact that you feel this. I love your passion. I love your emotion. I love your attitude. I love your combativeness. But you're going about it the wrong way. And that's where my biggest frustrations come in. I know Will's frustrations come in there too. There are those people out there that are just completely and totally clueless, drank the Kool-Aid, brainwashed, never going to reach them, don't want to reach them, not my job to reach them, don't really care. Okay? But it's those other ones that I do meet because of the things that I do and I enjoy in life, and then when I do run into these people that I see this in, and those are the ones that I try to help the most, and those are the ones that I try to support the most, because, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, they're our closest thing to hope. It's just that they're trying to achieve what an imbalanced system is telling them is balanced, instead of stepping out of the system, living in balance, and letting the new system develop around us. Think globally, act locally. I am not going to save the world. I can make the 3 feet around me the place that I want it to be. That will attract a certain other person or people to me naturally. And if they make their 3 feet the same way, and they attract other people that make their 3 feet the same way, and that's all we worry about, okay, then the new system will grow organically. Okay? But if you go out into the world thinking that you're going to save it, or thinking that you're going to fit into it, or thinking whatever, you're just perpetuating the imbalance.
It's like cells inside our body. Or it's like a bird that's flying in a flock, or a fish swimming in the school. It's only concerned with the immediate presence around it and acts accordingly, and then the whole group, it synchronizes or harmonizes with the whole group. It's just like that. Your music is the same way. You reach a certain pitch, the glass will break. You also reach a certain pitch, and it sounds very comforting, nurturing, and healing. Each cell, if we think of us as one cell, and we, like Bob was saying, we only affect the immediate surrounding, we're always bumping into other cells. And if we're operating as close to balance as we are, you will repel the unbalanced, and you will create harmony around you. It has to happen that way. It's a natural law, like gravity.
And again, we know all this stuff, and it's been conditioned out of us. In Italian, the expression is, make sure your own backyard is clean before you criticize or help your neighbor, depending upon which translation you go with his backyard. And what that means is you put your life in the order it needs to be in before you criticize somebody else, or even better than that is before you help somebody else. So if you focus on your backyard and your neighbor focuses on his backyard, and etc., then the neighborhood organically is what you want it to be, without the neighborhood. Like, we have these things now called homeowners associations.
Right.
Okay, what I call that, okay, is a bunch of dead people. Okay, literally a bunch of dead people who live in a gated community, who have absolutely no ability to tolerate anything. And this is kind of off a little bit, but the nation of butthurt. Okay, you know what? It used to be that if somebody said something that you didn't like, you turned and you walked away, you turned the other cheek, you smacked them in the face, you did whatever. Okay, everything I needed to know about life I learned in kindergarten, type of deal. Okay, but nowadays, what is this? If somebody offends you, your feelings need to be protected by the enactment of some sort of law or some sort of judgment or some sort of judicial thing where like nobody's allowed to in the age of the internet anymore, you're not allowed to disagree because you're a hater. Okay? Well, firstly, hate's an ego-driven concept, because if you think I waste a calorie hating you, okay, you're inconsequential to me. Okay, random people in general. Okay, so to think that I would even waste a calorie hating you is ridiculous. However, at the point in time that you become consequential, that you're trying to impose your will upon me, we have a disagreement. Okay, but people are have this thing of entitlement and butthurt that like they're of the opinion that like they get to go through life without experiencing any discomfort whatsoever, and they attempt to perpetuate this and force this onto other people, and it's absurd. Okay, so again, this is another indication of how the control system is pushing us to homogeny. You know, we're the Borg. We're all supposed to think the same. We're all supposed to act the same. We're all supposed to do the same. The divide and conquer thing pits us all against each other, and eventually we're going to just be boiled down to a bunch of lines of code in a computer somewhere if we're lucky.
Wow.
And people are obsessed with Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn, whatever. I mean, really?
Well, that's being force-fed to us, don't you find? I mean, it's on
No,
every
it's not being it's not being force-fed. I don't believe it. It's not being force-fed one single bit, because I can turn my computer off.
Yeah, no, you got a point there.
And here's the other thing too. People are terrified to turn their computers off. You don't know why? Because the real world has consequences.
Yes.
Okay? You can say basically whatever you want to anybody on the internet to the point of being a psychopath and experience an exceptionally limited, if no consequences of it whatsoever. Stand toe-to-toe with another human being and try to get away with that stuff, and suddenly you don't know what the consequences are going to be. So it harkens me back to Ayn Rand. You are perfectly free, I'm paraphrasing, you are perfectly free to ignore the real world. You are not perfectly free to ignore the consequences of ignoring the real world.
So there's a concept there, real world, that most people don't get in today's world.
Their meat suit world has so little to do with their virtual reality world that they can't even fit these concepts in their head. You know, and how much sense this makes to you also, and what perspective you take this in, is very largely going to have to do with your age and how you were raised. I personally think that one of the biggest travesties of modern life is the willful, purposeful, and deliberate destruction of the extended family. Because when I was a kid, there were 3 generations living in the same house, and I was one of those kids that couldn't wait to get away from that. And at 50 years old, I can tell you that I consider it to be my single biggest failure, like as a person, that I bought into that, drank that Kool-Aid, and went along with that. Because excuse me, everything that I find myself to be nowadays is actually because of the people that lived in my house, not because of what I discovered when I left them. It's like I left, I lived, I made my mistakes, I did the Kool-Aid thing, I do it still. However, everything that's brought me here is what I was given before then. So depending upon your age and how you were raised, you're going to have wildly different perspectives. You're going to actually hear different things when you listen to this conversation. You could have somebody that's 20 listen to this and somebody that's 50 listen to this at the exact same time, and if you asked them to write one paragraph about it, you would swear they were talking about two different shows. That's how, like Will said, you know, if you want to boil it down to, you know, since the 1740s, 1750s, it hasn't been a constant acceleration. They've been keeping the accelerator, pushing down on the gas pedal harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. The last 100 years was bad enough. The last 50 years was 10 times worse than the last 100. And it's going faster and faster and faster and faster.
And it seems to be a really easy fix. Bob gave it right there. You tend to the 3 feet around you or your local area and stop buying into all the fraud that's out there. Because nothing beyond your 5 senses do you have any say about. That's how it is. I give you a really, for me, it was a very huge thing that happened to me. I don't know, it's been over 10 years ago. 20 of us people banded together because there was a law proposed in St. Paul at the state capitol that was going to make what I do illegal because I don't have a license. 20 of us banded together for 5 nights. Just 20 of us. We didn't know anything, really, on how law worked at that time and whatever. But we did. We come together, and we changed the law in an entire state in 5 nights. 20 of us. You don't think you have power? You don't think you have the ability to make a difference?
Which harkens me back. No, which, like I said, man, dude, man, me and you have had variations of this conversation how many times in 4 years? Countless.
Countless.
Until, or I shouldn't say until, I would say the first step is this. And this is not as easy as it sounds. I realize that this is exceptionally difficult and people don't realize how it is. You need to not be a victim, okay? Individually, you need to realize you are not a victim. Now, what you see mostly is people who believe they are victimized fighting back, which is good and valid, and it has its place. However, that's completely different than living as if you are not a victim to begin with. Okay? Because even a victim who fights back is still feeding energy to victimization. Okay? So the ability to first realize that you are not a victim, you do not need to fight, you do not need to worry about the world past your personal world. That's where the stumbling block comes in. And that's why everybody's looking to go fight, you know, the good fight. That's why there are nutritional gurus on the internet that are a biscuit under 400 fucking pounds. Okay? Yeah, I want to take nutritional advice from you, Dr. Swelt. Okay? That's why there are financial gurus out there who will give you all the winning stock tips if you send them $49.95. Well, if you're such an investment genius, what do you need my $50 for? Okay? And then they'll, oh, it's the principle of the thing. Oh, really, the principle of the thing? The principle of the thing is an authority, which if you go back to pagan cultures or to magus cultures, whatever you want to indigenous populations, whatever you want to refer to them as, if you go back to that thing, anybody that was in a position of authority was not allowed, able, or indulged in charging anything for it. Okay, they basically lived off the generosity of the people that they served. Okay, they were considered servants, okay, so to speak. So talk about the flip side world that we live in. What we would consider to be the equivalent of a politician that we claim works for us, in indigenous populations, they literally were like servants. Okay, that they knew they weren't victims. They knew they had the power, so they had no need to impose their will. They just lived. And through the fact that people have particular talents and expertises and gifts, and we're not all equal, okay, that was how those families and tribes and, you know, eventually societies flushed themselves out. You know, it was a very organic thing.
Right. Well, guys, I think this was a very organic show. Actually, we talked about a lot of things, and I hope people got a lot out of it. I know I did.
I don't hope anything. I hope they listen to it though.
Yeah.
If you in that regard, because there's some big concepts here that we just talked briefly about that, like Bob and I, we've spent days talking about just some of these concepts just briefly. These are some fundamental things that we've talked about here tonight that most people had, the comprehension level of most people in today's world can't, there's no grasping of it.
Well, that's the point to these shows. It's we're definitely an extension of the kitchen, but you know, it's tonight. It felt very much like it was part of your show as well. Well, in fact, why don't you one of you guys tell people about the show that you do on Wednesdays and where it's on, and give a little plug to that.
Been doing the show for, oh, I don't know, about 4 years now. Freedomslips.com, Studio A, 1 p.m. Central on Wednesdays. You can listen live or you can listen to the archives.
Yep.
And the name of the show?
Oh, yeah, the name of the show is An Alternate Perspective.
Sometimes with Wil Spencer.
Sometimes I show up. Hey, I've been really good lately, okay?
Yes, you have.
Other than the forklift deal yesterday. I mean, there was no one else here. I had to do that, so.
Hey, it took you less time to operate the forklift than it did to excuse yourself to go operate the forklift.
Guys.
But we have a conversation. Bob and I and Patrick Jordan, who you can find his stuff at vaccinefraud.com.
Yes.
We have a conversation, and you get to listen to our conversations. You can email us topics. You can find us, send us messages if you want us to talk about something. Otherwise, we just talk about stuff, just kind of like tonight. This is a conversation.
Yep.
I love this concept. This is how I was raised. My father was older he was like 40 when I was born. And so I only really knew my dad as older, and all his friends were older. And so the biggest, my learning was just shut up and listen, like Bob said really early in the show. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I was told to shut up and listen. You'll learn way more. And so I grew up listening to conversations. And it intrigues me. And we get compliments all the time about, wow, your show is really not a show. We're peeping in on your conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where the magic happens in a conversation. Yeah. Not rehearsed, just ad lib, just here it is, straight out. So anyhow, that's our show, and it's really the conversation, and that's the we let you listen to our insanity, really.
and if you think about it, you're talking about a naturopath, a research scientist, and a pagan Gnostic history, whatever, word you want to put in there, person, you probably couldn't get 3 more dissimilar approaches to things or 3 more dissimilar paths, and yet the conversations that we have, like you said, they're not scripted shows. They're literally just conversations, and where they lead to and the organicness of them and things like that is probably one of the biggest messages in the show. Like, you started this whole thing with the 50 Shades of Grey. This is just one little flake on top of a shit pile of dandruff that's covering the human condition, and yet that's where they direct all of your focus, so you don't see the whole rest of the natty skull.
Mhm. Well, that's the point of these shows, and getting you guys to come on and tell us what you're thinking.
It's really not even thinking. It's the knowing.
Yeah.
Because we all 3 of us have different. Well, even right here, there's 4 of us. We all have 4 pretty much different experiences and knowing.
Yeah.
And when you share them without judgment, when you're just sharing your knowing, this isn't a make-believe and what if and belief. This is like, I'm talking to you from my real-time experience all the time. Very little, and I know Bob's the same way. We don't. Because nothing's real if it's not experience. If we don't get it through our senses, our touching, our sight, our sound, our smell, our taste, it's not real for us. It's all fake.
Well, that goes back to what Bob was saying before about how the subconscious mind, you actually have to break into it through the physical.
That's the only way the subconscious mind is programmed, is through your senses.
Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing, just to tie into this, because I had this thought a little while ago when, I don't know, when you guys were talking. Our body is our subconscious mind. And it comes over half programmed before we even come out of the womb. That concept right there is quite huge, especially when you're talking the 50 Shades of Grey type of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was born into a family that was pretty messed up. There was really no nurturing, balance. You know, I may have got a hug. I got slapped in the mouth more than I can remember kissed and hugged. Okay, my mother grew up in a similar household, and so did my father. So, me coming into this world, like most people, are coming in with a set of programs, for the most part, that is anti-life. That's huge.
And you know what's even funnier is there are a lot of people out there who will argue that point with you endlessly. And I say to them quite simply, the concept of cellular memory doesn't exist to them. And I say to them quite simply, how does the bird know that the cat's its enemy from the moment that it's born? Okay, because it's in your cellular memory.
Right.
And the Human Genome Project has said there is 6% similarities and 94% junk DNA. Sure, the arrogance of man, Mother Nature got it wrong, 96% error percentile. Okay, it's not junk. It's shit they don't want you to know. Okay, you have a cellular memory, at least 2 generations worth prior to your birth. That is nature's way of trying to ensure your survival in the absence of a nurturing parental unit. Okay, whether or not it's effective, we're still here. Okay, so when you start talking about science being the new religion thing, or when I said that and people be like, oh, you know, you're full of shit. Oh, really? Okay, well, here's the deal. Science just told you you're born 96% damaged. It's the same external savior patriarchal myth, just represented by science. Their playbook is thin. They don't have a lot of plays. They just have the ability to polish them up and rewrite them and recolor them for the particular audience, day and age they need them to work in.
Boy, we could talk for hours on that.
No.
How long are we going to go tonight anyhow,
Well,
Nancy? You're the captain.
Yeah. Am I? Where's my captain's hat? He's missing that today. Well, I mean, we got to save some stuff for another show, but I think we like covered a whole bunch of cool stuff, and we just want to thank everybody for joining us. Cheryl, the next time we do a show, we'll cover all this stuff about the kitchen and what's going on there. Everybody's doing some real fun things.
We're going to have an episode from the kitchens. Everybody bring your laptop into the kitchen. We'll cook them with cuckoos.
That's it. Because this was more a show on, it was a conceptual show. Is that sort of what I meant? Yeah.
Or a contraceptional show.
That's where I was going. So we hope we kept it fairly clean for people, but...
No, you maybe. It doesn't matter to me.
And I have potty mouth. Actually, you know what? I'll just tell you now. Probably the reason why I cursed tonight is simply because I'm like so freaking tired of biting my tongue being on FCC radio that I have to like, you know.
Well, you didn't bite your tongue this time. That's for sure, Bob.
Nope.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate the honesty, and that's what this show was about tonight. It was quite honest and open, and I hope everybody learned a lot from it. I did, just listening and being part of it. So we do hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel there, and you can watch these as they come out. And any information that you need, please join us on Facebook. That's Body Electrician Community Kitchen. It's getting late, folks. I'm sorry. And also, don't forget, go to bodyelectrician.com if you have any other questions, or to contact Dr. Wil Spencer there. And Bob, thank you so much for all your information tonight. It was brilliant.
And thank you. It just to toss this out there because you said it and I forgot to say it earlier. The YouTube thing. The YouTube thing is one of the biggest problems with a lot of what we talked about nowadays. Obviously, I don't have my face up on camera. I have a YouTube channel because if you just get one because you have a YouTube channel. I don't make videos because I don't know how. I don't have any reason to. I don't want to. I have no interest in it. Whatever. It's immaterial. However, I noticed something. Nobody likes to even assume that you know what you're talking about unless you somehow have some sort of video out there for proof. And I look at these videos, and a 12-year-old kid with a cell phone can make a movie that you can't tell is fake. Okay? And I'm watching these things going, that didn't happen, that didn't happen, that didn't happen. And people are like, yes, it did, I saw the video. And I'm like, it doesn't happen. How do you know? Because I've actually done it. It doesn't happen. Okay, so this entire generation, or couple of generations now, which is absolutely terrifying, has more belief in a YouTube video than they have in what happens to them in their real material world. And that is one of the biggest components of the amount of emotional and physical damage people are doing to each other. So since you said the YouTube thing out there, it's like anything else. Do I think YouTube is inherently bad? Absolutely not. Do I think what people have turned it into and use it for is harmful? I have firsthand experience that it can be incredibly harmful and actually fatal. Okay? So be careful of what you consider to be your real world.
Yes, and be careful what you're creating in your own world, right?
No matter how, here's the best reason why Gnostics don't have beliefs. No matter how strongly you believe there's no such thing as gravity, somebody's still going to have to scrape you off the pavement. However, the day that I know there's no gravity, I'm going to be flying like a motherfucking bird. That's the difference.
And on that note, I think we'll let it fly, guys. So anybody want to say anything else? Everybody's cool with the show? And
Thank you.
Thank
You, Cheryl. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Bob.
Great show,
Thank
guys.
you, Woo. Thank you, Nancy.
And we will say good night.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
Cheryl.
guys, for joining us.
Lassie, come home.